AI is inventing new drugs. Contraception access is being limited, but pharmacists are finding a way around it. And pharmacies on wheels are helping pharmacy deserts. That's just some of what we're talking about on today's RX Report, where you get your health and your news delivered. I'm your host, Manuel, coming to you from the home of pharmacy at the American Pharmacists Association. We've got a lot to talk about. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's dive in. For our first story, contraceptive access has been making headlines for decades, most recently with the Supreme Court's Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization decision that recently overturned Roe v. Wade. But what if you live in a state where contraceptives are legal, but you still can't afford to reach a doctor for a prescription? According to a report from Yale Daily News, as of December of last year, pharmacists in Connecticut have been officially authorized to prescribe hormonal contraception and emergency contraceptives without requiring a physician's visit. Taking out the middleman, this new initiative allows for much easier access to contraceptives for people who may not have the time or even the money to access them via a physician. Connecticut Lieutenant Governor Susan Beeswicks said on the matter in a press release that, quote, "There can be many barriers to going to a primary care provider for contraception. Potential costs, needing to take time off of work, or traveling long distances. That is why both patients and pharmacists overwhelmingly offered their support for this change." Policymakers aren't the only ones who are fans of this change. Connecticut pharmacists are completely on board, too. Nathan Tinker, the CEO of the Connecticut Pharmacists Association, said, quote, "This immediately puts a potential 600-plus new points of access for women in Connecticut, where they can receive hormonal contraceptive without waiting for an appointment." While researching this story, I was waiting to see pushback from different groups about expanding access to contraceptives. Instead, the most significant issue I saw raised was how the reimbursement and implementation of this process would be done. This new policy expands Connecticut pharmacists' scope of practice. Awesome. However, there is no reimbursement structure for pharmacists prescribing contraception, which is not awesome. So, unlike visiting your general practitioner, who is covered through various insurance plans, pharmacists lack a specific billing method for this service. Now, to address that issue, 3 bills have been introduced to the Connecticut legislature to address this lack of payment structure for insurance reimbursement for pharmacists. The idea behind championing these bills is that a lack of reimbursement for pharmacists will result in a lack of participation in programs like this that can legitimately help people. Now, we'll have to wait and see if the program gets widespread adoption or is hampered by costs or other adverse effects, but stay tuned here to RX Report, and we'll pass on any updates as we get them. Now, sometimes while making this show, I feel like the oracle where all I have to say is bad news. That's why stories like our next one give me hope and have so much fun. We've talked a lot about pharmacy deserts a couple of times on this show now, where certain locations in America find themselves outside of a reasonable distance from their closest pharmacy. Recently, that was the experience many patients in Winthrop, Missouri were having, as local pharmacies in the area had closed due to poor reimbursement rates for prescription drugs. And that kind of, sounds familiar, right? Rings a bell? Well, when all seemed lost and it looked like Winthrop citizens were going to have to make the over 20-mile drive to grab their prescriptions at the next closest pharmacy, the Plymouth-based Lotus Pharmacy began sending their mobile orders via their hot pink script mobile. It's not actually called that, I just wanted to say that on the show. But the cars and the pills are a trademark hot pink, part of the pharmacy's branding charm. Lotus Pharmacy sends a car every day to Winthrop, delivering desperately needed medications to the assisted living and independent living residents after the town's single community pharmacy unfortunately closed. Residents have been quoted saying that they, quote, "wouldn't be here today if not for the daily Lotus deliveries." Lotus is a woman-owned pharmacy, and CEO Jill Litwin said that she was inspired to make the daily deliveries after being pulled over by police when leaving Winthrop, asking what she was doing in town. At the time, the pharmacy had been doing some sporadic deliveries, but when Jill explained that that was the reason she was there, the officer who pulled her over actually asked if she would, quote, "be able to help the community." They're struggling because losing a pharmacy was such an integral part of the town and helping of the residents here. It's a better experience than I've ever had with police. But since then, Lotus Pharmacy has gathered a number of workers and volunteers who make the critical daily drives to Winthrop, providing life-saving care for those who cannot provide it for themselves. Now, Missouri lawmakers have been pushing for pharmacy reform, but like in many states, patients suffer as they collectively wait for their legislators to take action. Thankfully, for the citizens of Winthrop, while they wait, they have a hot pink stallion of a delivery bus tiding them over. For that reason, we at APHA happily tip our metaphorical hats to the folks at Lotus Pharmacy, who are our heroes of the day. All right, now we'll get to our last big story in a second, but for now, it's time to hit on some quick doses. First up, the APHA annual meeting is coming up in Nashville on March 21st, where you can meet people from all walks of pharmacy life. But did you know that at the same meeting, the APhA House of Delegates meets annually to shape the future of the pharmacy profession? The APHA House of Delegates is in charge of developing and debating official APHA policy, which informs the association's initiatives moving forward. At the annual meeting, Speaker of the House, Brandy Hamilton, will lead the House of Delegates through discussions of important, timely topics like pharmacy jurisprudence assessments, health equity, pharmacists' role in intimate partner violence, use of performance-enhancing drugs by athletes and pharmacists' roles there, ensuring safe medications for pediatric patients, and so much more. So, if you haven't already, register to come to the APHA annual meeting today at the link below and make your voice heard if you're a delegate. And even if you're not a delegate, grab a seat in the back viewing gallery and bring your popcorn to watch the policy process in action. I'll see you there. Breaking news for everyone who doesn't have kids. The flu/cold season is officially upon us, and it's here with a vengeance. Now, though I'm sure it surprises no one that the sniffles are flying around right now, this season is standing out from its predecessors. According to a report from the CDC, influenza has killed over 16,000 people this season. That is a horrifying, inexcusable number for a disease we have vaccinations and treatments for. It's like hearing thousands have died from horse and buggy crashes. We have evolved since then. Install some airbags and seatbelts in those things. In all seriousness, the CDC has noted that this massive increase comes from an uptick in low vaccination rates and treatment delays, leaving many unprotected. For reference, 16,000 is more people than COVID has killed this year, making the flu, a disease that we are usually prepared for and have been protected against for decades, is more lethal than a novel pandemic that took light-speed research and responses from the global community to prepare for. But it's not too late to vaccinate. Pharmacists and pharmacy personnel are the #1 givers of adult flu vaccines. So, check the link below to find your closest pharmacy and get protected. Rest assured, doses are still available there. At the very least, let me end this dose on this. Whether you're young, old, healthy, sick, get vaccinated if you can, and quarantine if you can't. Wash your hands, and be careful about getting into any horse and buggies anytime soon. Now then, for our last quick dose, what do you think of when I say the term yogurt? The Trix Bunny, maybe, or that overtly granola healthy partner that's always trying to push you to eat it, or maybe even the legendary health advocate Carol Downer, whom you can hear more about 2 RX reports ago. I know, shameless self-promo, but, worth it. Anyway, back to yogurt. Turns out yogurt can protect you from cancer. Yes, Mason talked about pharmacy deserts and cancer in the same show. If we mention PBMs, you can turn in your punch card for a free sundae somewhere, maybe. I don't know, go to Dairy Queen. Anyway, back to yogurt and cancer. A recent study conducted over 3 decades by Mass General Brigham found that people who ate 2 or more servings of yogurt a week had lower rates of certain types of colorectal cancer. A new report from NPR noted that researchers found that yogurt eaters had lower rates of proximal colon cancers, or colon cancers that occur on the right side of the colon. It turns out that the bacteria in yogurt does a half-decent job of protecting people from contracting these types of cancers. That's pretty cool, right? Like some more yogurt for all of us. But let me leave you on this story with what Dr. Tomotaka Ugai, the co-senior author of this study, said. He noted that, quote, "My message is, if you like yogurt, go for it. I gotta get more tricks now." For our last main story, maybe you've heard about the cool new kid on the block, AI. DeepSeek, ChatGPT, whatever in the world Grok is, they are making waves in pretty much every industry imaginable, and drug discovery is no different. Currently, drugs are produced through a long and arduous process where it takes years to produce and approve a new prescription. Very basically, scientists identify basic compounds through research and chemistry, and then test the compound's efficacy, making sure that the quality can be controlled on a sustainable basis, and then they go through the necessarily difficult process of having that drug approved by the FDA. But what if it didn't have to be so difficult? There's gotta be a better way. What if modern problems could be solved with modern solutions? One of the biggest slogs in drug development is data analysis, where the intricacies of chemicals, reactions, trends, and patterns must all be analyzed for information on how to best develop the new compounds. Where this would take humans in front of a hyped-up version of Excel literal years to do, AI can do it much quicker and much more competently, and also won't complain about the back pain of hunching over a computer screen for 50 hours, or a very nice podcast desk. This speedy upgrade allows doctors to customize treatments to their patients and create specific compounds that are better suited for specific cases. Dr. Shyam Mohapatra, Associate Dean at the University of South Florida College of Pharmacy and developer of the university's master program in drug discovery and development, told ABC News that, quote, "The one key in drug development is called target identification, or identifying potential drugs. With AI, we'll be able to do that, and within 10 years, it will expand rapidly." So, where you and I may use AI to cut down on a slog of papers, homework, whatever else that needs to be written, scientists are using it to cut through massive slogs of medical data to find winning patterns and chemical compounds much quicker. The use of AI in drug development is still in its infancy, but already the progress has been huge. For instance, AI was instrumental in the rapid development of the mRNA vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic, helping the light-speed development of those vaccines. It has also been used to develop life-saving cancer drugs in clinical trials. Though the full use of AI in drug making can only be guessed at by this point, what we're already seeing now is incredibly exciting and full of promise for the future of health. But I gotta pass the question off to you. What do you think? Does the thought of new AI-enabled drugs excite you, or would you rather prefer to develop them as we do now? How do you think it will impact health moving forward? Let me know in those comments below. And that is our show. If this episode made you want to see what else AI is capable of, then drop a like and subscribe. And please don't go making Skynet. If you're hungry for more APHA, register for the annual meeting and check out our other podcasts in the description below. Our executive producer is Rob Hodges. Our creative producer is Kate Erdmann. And until next time, I've been your host, Mason Manuel. Tune in next Friday for more RX Report, where you get your health and your news delivered. But until then, bye y'all.